I got the broadcast was live.
Cup of Joe with Grandpa Des. There we go. Take 2.
I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. We had 20 minutes of golden video.
It was actually
to
about
hit record.
It was actually about 7 to be
Okay, that's
to be
fine.
fair.
I work slow.
Yeah. So this is Jeff Hawkins. I'm Paul Fontaine.
I poured my
Grandpa
heart out
Des.
on a podcast, and it's
Oh
like,
my God,
hey
I'm
Jeff,
so
I
sorry.
forgot to record. Can we do it
I
over
just
again? It's
looked
like
on the top. I'm wondering, we're getting no comments, and I'm
The
like,
em-
okay, well, you know what? I don't have a ton of subscribers.
the emotional resonance is dead. Any comment? Get back in character, Hawkins, and do it again.
I want to thank Jeff for coming on. I was so you know what? I'm gonna call him out. No, I'm not gonna call him out, but I'm gonna say the
call
guy
me
that I
out.
was supposed to have on
Oh,
was supposed to be on Monday, and then he couldn't. Something came up and he couldn't do it. So Mike Gilbert thankfully filled in, and we had a great show. And then he was going to be on today, and then again something came up. So I'm going to have him on. And when he comes
maybe
on,
he
we'll
just
talk
doesn't want to
about
be
it.
on your show. Maybe he
That
just doesn't
could
want
be.
to talk to you. It's like
That
it's
could
like a
be.
girl blowing you off. It's like
It's put it this way.
know,
It's somebody we
gotta wash
both
my hair tonight.
It's somebody we both know. And when he comes on the show, it'll be a surprise show.
Okay,
I'll just say
cool.
that.
No, that's fine.
In case you know who I'm talking about now.
That's fine. Old Scab Jeff coming on.
Yeah. No, and you know what?
In.
So Jeff, what are you
More
drinking?
Reliable.
What are you drinking? Like, because I know already.
I wish I was drinking the bleach behind me, but instead I'm drinking this water.
It looks like a Yeti, a 64-ounce Yeti.
It is a 64-ounce Yeti. It is a giant cooler that keeps things ice cold that I take to the gym with me, and I'm just trying to get my 8 ounces or my 8 glasses of 8 ounces or whatever the hell you call it. But yeah, I'm drinking
trying to work
water.
off your COVID weight. So yeah, so what happened
you
was
were just gonna fill in everything I said on the show before.
No, we were having a great conversation, and then I realized I hadn't hit record. So
I know
it's my bad. You know, it's the second show. You're the guinea pig.
Now we're gonna go a little blue.
Yeah, I looked, and when I looked at the link to see if it was broadcasting, when we started the show, we had 11, and now I've got 10. So I think maybe some people
silence was more entertaining than this show.
Well, or I promised a show to start at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. So, but yeah, Jeff Hawkins of Shake Them Ropes is here, and Jeff
and the Dynamite Show.
And the Dynamite Show,
and your own shit here.
Numerous other things. No, you know what? Shake Them Ropes is what everyone needs to see, because you got to pay to hear the Dynamite Show, and Shake Them Ropes is free, as you were saying at the end of the podcast.
Because no one would pay to listen to me, right?
Yeah. So you know what? I will say though that you know we were starting to talk about the whole Grampa thing, and we didn't get quite into it. So what I will say is that I don't want to repeat what we talked about. That'll be just
but we might be able to weave a little bit in and out
between you and me. But no, I was not, you know, I had the kids really young. We were 19 and 20. And, you know, and that was the same as me. Like my mom was 16 when she had me. So you think I'm a young grandpa. My mom was 36.
You're young in modern parlance, not for like the old West.
No, but when I look at pictures of my grandparents, like I'm looking at them and like when
18,
I was
19 when they had,
like, so when I think of the first memories I have of my grandparents, it was their 25th wedding anniversary. And I was a little like 7-year-old kid, and I was dancing with my cousin who, you know, was like, you think you're going to marry at that age. And we're in our nice little, she's got a dress. I've got
that's
a
how
suit.
they do, hold on. That's how they do it in your family, huh?
No, it's just when you're 5 and 7, you think,
actually, no, that's true. That happens.
Yeah. She's the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yeah.
And I love like Charlene she's like my sister. Like we still see each other at least once a week. It's like Dave and his cousin that just passed away, unfortunately. Like that totally reminds me of the relationship I have with my cousin Charlene. So I'd have her on, but she's very shy and everything. So anyways, when I look at pictures of them,
don't worry, you won't record it. That's okay.
In my mind, like I picture them as being old people, and they were the same age I am now, which fascinates me. In fact, they might have been younger, but that was if you were 45 in 1975,
you're old.
You lived a hard 45 years. Like 45 in 1975 is 65 now.
Probably chain smoking. And
yeah. And you know, you got 8 kids in a 2-bedroom house. And literally, like, that's not even an exaggeration. Yeah. Like, people listen to that and they think I'm nuts. No, that's what my parents lived with. And my dad, my stepdad, actually, he was a small family at the time it was considered, because he only had 5 kids, and they had lightning hit their house. It was in the paper, and the lightning bolt went right through their bedroom. My dad was in a crib and his older brother was in a bed, and the lightning bolt hit right between them. I'm not even making this up. Like, it went right through the house. The house was on fire. They had to pull them out. Like, they all survived, thank God. But it was crazy.
Well,
And
that's the weird thing about age too, is that if you use it as a barometer of progress, it's either going to make you worried or depressed. So you can't. You just
no,
know, it's one of those things, like, especially in showbiz.
it's
Like
milestones.
like when you were out here, like when I moved out here, the thing was, if you're not staff on a show by 25, I think, or you're not a showrunner by 30, your career's dead. And so you always were, and but when you're in that age, you also don't know enough about life to really write good comedy. And it's so weird that Hollywood is a youth-driven business when nobody knows dick until they hit about 30, for the most part. It's like, all your comedians who are really great, yeah, they had a gift of some sort of delivery and stuff like that at a young age. Fairly young age, let's put it that way. But as they got older, their material gets better because they have more life experience. They've done more. And so, but it's also weird because, like, all casting is like, we want someone 18 to 24 who knows this, and this. And you're just like, you're never gonna find that. That's like a unicorn shit.
Well,
man.
your material is better, and you've also obviously you're a better performer.
You're a better performer, you're better at
able to
delivery.
you're able to read the audiences, you get experience just like
Like,
anything else.
for
It's
me,
like what
I had
Go
an
ahead.
antagonist relationship with audiences because I was scared of them. Because I was always under the impression I was being judged, and I had so much of my identity wrapped up in my quote unquote career, because I started doing stand up 17, 18 in clubs, and it's like, I it's one of those things where you think this is going to be your life's work, when you're booking gigs at 18 and you're just like, dude, I'm on fire right now. I'll be headlining. I'll have an HBO special by the time I'm 22. Look at me, kind of thing. But I had crippling stage fright. Like, I had to call
Really?
my mom before shows, and I'd also drink once I came of age. I didn't drink at all until I was 22, 23. Until I started doing comedy, I didn't really drink.
Good
I
old
didn't drink
church
in
boy.
college. Oh God, yes. One of my jokes was I wasn't cool enough to be offered drugs, so I could say no.
I
mean,
used to go get drunk, like, during youth group at church and then come
see,
back.
yeah, all those good kids, or all those church kids who were wild childs on Saturday, coming, or on like Saturday night, coming in Sunday school hungover
Yep.
and stuff, and not me, man, straight as an arrow.
Straight edge.
Oh, I wasn't straight edge by choice. It was like,
Yeah,
it's like
just
involuntarily straight edge, because I was afraid because you don't have double jeopardy in my family. My dad was military and my mom was a school teacher. My mom was my school teacher for 2
my
years.
parents are both alcoholics, so.
Like, it's like, did you ever skip school? Hell no, because I had my mom my junior and senior year.
Yeah, I didn't actually skip school either, but one thing, I haven't told you this. I don't think, and you can stop me if I have. You obviously watched Last Comic Standing, and I remember you telling me you had some stories that you could share off air, and I'm not going to ask you to share them.
It's booked like pro wrestling. Everybody who gets it, like they do, it's like American Idol does in some ways. They have the people because they've made arrangements with agents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Who gets into the house?
Yeah, I believe that.
The tryouts are for B-roll. The
reason I ask you, do you remember that the gorilla that did comedy was one of the early seasons? I can't remember his name, but he was a gorilla. The whole gimmick was he was a gorilla and he did jokes.
No, I didn't watch all the season. I watched first because I did comedy with that fan for a while.
I think he might have been the second or third. So anyways, the guy's name under the gorilla costume was Dan Leacock. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Okay. So he's from Winnipeg.
Okay.
And me, him, and my buddy Daryl Lesage were we all did an open mic, like a contest at Yuck Yucks in Winnipeg in 1992.
Is there anything worse than comedy club names? Ha-has, Yuck Yucks.
we finished, like, it was a citywide contest because there was 3 different clubs in the city, and it was like an 8-week contest, and we made it to the finals, and I was 3rd, my buddy Daryl was 2nd, and Dan Leacock finished 1st. And Dan Leacock ended up pretty successful. Like, he did the Last Comic Standing, he did a couple shows in Canada, like on national TV. He was a regular on Off the Record with Michael Landsberg.
Okay.
And yeah, so but I was doing comedy for, I got to the point where I was making money to do openers, and I did a couple minor tours. Like, I went to Brandon, which is like 2 hours away, and we performed in a bar. That's always fun. They shut off the music so 2 guys could stand on a stage and do comedy for 10 minutes while everyone's waiting to hear music again. But I quit because I had, my daughter was going to be born, and that was going to be our 2nd kid. And it was like, I'm not going to have time to be writing and going to comedy clubs at night and everything. So I basically gave up comedy. So when Parker Klein, my former Dynamite Show co-host, had to quit the show to concentrate on his career and his kids at school, he's a teacher. That kind of reminded me of that, like, I gave up something I really wanted to do in order to, do something more important.
Yeah, I could tell comedy stories, but I find them dull for the most part.
Yeah,
I tell them all the time, anyways. But like
well,
like the guy who was part of my youth was Pat Oswald, because he was my MC. Yeah. And then I did my first at a place called Kazi's in Newport News, where I grew up. But no, I did my first comedy show for an English project.
Really?
You're supposed to do this thing where you work all semester on a project, like a project of your choice or whatever, and then you present at the end. And I was like, well, I've always been kind of funny, and I've always liked stand-up comedy, so I'm gonna try this. And of course, I didn't really. It's also something I didn't have to work at all that much. It's just like I had a bunch of jokes. I just had never written them down and things like that. And so I go to Williamsburg Comedy Club, which is where Jon Stewart actually started. And I do my show, and it's not great. I still remember the comedians who were on the bill too, because Brian Haley was the MC that night. He later went on Wings. He was the guy who took over for Thomas Hayden Church.
Oh.
Which is an interesting thing. I met him years later. I was like, hey, man, you helped me a lot. He goes, and he kind of remembered the conversation. And he remembered me because because Hampton Roads is such a huge military area.
That's Virginia, right?
Yeah. There was a military base for each of the 4 branches, like within 20 minutes of my house. But it's one of those things where there were servicemen in the audience, and they decided they were going to heckle the kid on open mic night.
Oh, geez.
Now, I was not I was already nervous, and so this is my first performance, blah, blah, blah. But I also had that instinct in me, and you've kind of seen it, where it's like, oh, you think you can take me on in a verbal thing? And I went after these guys, and they wanted to fight me after the show. And it was like where my dad was, like, my dad's tape. He was really proud of the set I did, but he also had to buy those guys drinks to calm them down, because
they're going to kick your ass.
They started heckling me, and I went after them. And for some reason, it was just like a reaction type thing. It's like, I'm not backing down from these guys, because I knew from watching and listening to. There wasn't as many podcasts and things like that to learn from, but that's your domain, and you have to defend it. Otherwise, they're just going to heckle the fuck out of you all the time. So yeah, it was like that. But the thing for me that became a real problem was like my quote unquote career. I'd written TV shows and things like that. I wasn't huge in it, but I had a cup of coffee, as we like to say in the industry, but my career was virtually done by 24 or 25. And then I went into improv, which is a different form of comedy, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you go home or you go to visit a friend from college, and you go in bar hopping or whatever, this is my friend, he's a comedian. And it used to just tear me apart, because I really wasn't doing comedy all that much. And it's like the identifier type of thing, which is why I brought up the Grandpa Des thing. Yeah. It's like, I ask if that ever bothers anybody else, because like eventually I got comfortable with it. But there's also that weird thing when you introduce your comedian friend that becomes the old West. Hey, this is the fastest gun in the West. Oh yeah, let's see it. Kind of thing. They ask. Somebody else did a joke once. It's like, it's the only profession where they ask you to do the profession right in front of them right at that time.
Yeah. Tell me a joke. What was
Like
your best
nobody,
joke?
you
Yeah.
know, the old hack joke. Nobody ever asked a doctor, okay, perform an appendectomy
Yeah.
in front of me, type of thing. Yeah, and it started to eat at me a bit. Like I wasn't even like I was teaching improv, but I wasn't performing it because
Yeah.
even in LA, it's kind of cutthroat at times. I'm big in other places, just not my hometown, which was just weird as well. It was like I was a rock star in Philadelphia. And it's like I come to LA and I'm nobody, and it's such a crushing veracity. And what helped me get through was my faith for the most part. Because it's like, look, you're not
Yeah.
here. There's something higher. So just identify yourself as, you know, a child of God, blah, blah, blah.
I
Type of
was
thing.
lucky. I never got out of Winnipeg. So,
You know
um,
what? I should have, and like I went to LA way too soon. I mean, I had, you know, a strong lead on a job in television when I went out. But my stand up, even though I'd been doing one nighters and weekends doing openers, I never got up to mid on the East Coast. I was always opener type of thing. If I had stayed local and really honed it, because what happens is you get to LA and you have to start over pretty much. I mean, even headliners, like a guy by the name of Bob Marley that I knew, you know, he got to LA and I knew him as just a consummate club comic on the East Coast. Gets out to LA and nobody knows him. And he eventually, you know, he's doing open mics at the Laugh Factory and eventually gets on there. But, you know, it can be like the day I quit doing stand up. I'm doing this showcase show, and it's one of those things where the comedian books all his friends and a bunch of young comics for
oh
the bringer
geez.
for the audience. And I had 3 friends in the audience because, you know, I hadn't done it in a while. So, you know, once your friends see you once, they never want to see you again. So it's one of those things where you kind of space them out. But I mean, I was a known quantity to this guy. I was funny. You know, he knew me from other clubs, and that's why he kept booking me. He knew I could kill. But this was like a 6-hour comedy show total. And like all his friends go up, all of the people, you know, who were booked, who were young, some of them just trying shit out, and this is their first you know, showcase or whatever. And you know, and I'm last, quote unquote, the headliner. Not really after a 6-hour show, but the guy MC is introducing me, and the booker comes up to me behind me and he goes, yeah, Jeff, you were required to bring 4 people and you only brought 3. I'm cutting your time by 2 minutes. And
Wow.
and it's like, and here's Jeff Hawkins, hey, kind of thing. And I am livid. I am absolutely fucking livid at this guy, because it's like, look, I'm really one of the only people who brought people to this fucking dump of a show that you're running here, even though I liked the club. I mean, they watched your hack ass shit. You know, just everybody doing the same fucking 7 minutes over and over and over again. It's just marathon of a show. Everybody's tired. You've worn out the audience because you've had 30 comics on this show to really pack them in. And now you're telling me I have to cut 2 minutes off my bit. And I don't know what 2 minutes of material I have because I had it timed out pretty well to the second. I just went, fuck this. Because
That's like the poor wrestlers that get time shaved as they're going through the curtain.
Well, like I said, everything about comedy being on the stage, I love.
Mhm.
It's the shit
The
behind
backstage
the
bullshit,
scenes.
yeah.
You know, like, you know, half the comics are booking hot chicks so they can get laid. It's just, there's a lot of ridiculousness that goes on there. And but it's weird because I've been out of the game for at least 3 generations of comics now. It feels like that because I think it's like, you know, 3 years is pretty much a generation or whatever. But
Yeah.
I did an open mic for the first time last Thursday.
Really? Wow.
I had COVID material I wanted to try because it was funny to me, and I tried it out on some friends and they really liked it, and it worked. And it was great. I'm just worried about comedy now.
Yeah,
I don't think comedy can live in this.
I can't
fucking
even
age.
imagine.
And I
getting up
don't
on a
mean to sound like
stage.
a fucking boomer like Seinfeld and Chappelle and Burr, but dude, I'm watching these kids. And look, I'm used to the, hey, anybody smoke weed? Yeah, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But nobody can laugh at themselves. Like, I had somebody getting offended at open micers, and you're like, why are you doing this? And they're pretty much were using their identity
Yeah.
as kind of leverage type of thing. Like, they went up there and they said what they were, and they held for applause. And you're just like, God, that's the end that you got to
I
like.
was the ninth lead on a ABC Family show that got canceled after 7 episodes.
Well, no. I meant
Oh.
sexual identity.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry.
And they were like, and
I'm
after the
straight.
show yeah, honestly, well, after the show I'm listening to them talk and they're like, well, those bigots out in the audience didn't find me funny because blah 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 blah, and
Oh,
they're complaining
oh.
about that and this and the other, and I
Well,
was
you
just
brought
like,
it up.
and it's like, well, I did not talk to them about this
Yeah.
because that's not my gig. I don't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm watching. I'm like, but I've had this issue teaching improv as well now because it's like everybody, like you are taught as an actor to play not stereotypes per se, but archetypes.
Mhm.
And you can't play archetypes of other than yourself because then you're offending somebody's experience and stuff like that. And look, I'm empathetic to that. But at the same time, you should have no sacred cows in comedy. To me, you should not.
Yeah.
You when you're on stage, you should be Teflon in some ways. And the problem is, to me, a lot of comics, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I watch them, even headliners, and they're more dogmatic than funny. They're very like they want to be the activist comic and things like that, and I get that, but I think Norm Macdonald said it best, and I've met Norm a few times. I've talked to him. I used to ghostwrite jokes for Dennis Miller for his radio show
Oh, wow.
late in his career.
Another one of my favorites.
I love Dennis. I
Yeah.
love Dennis Miller, but and his whole coaching tree of Norm and Drake Sather, who was one of the darkest human beings alive and stuff like that. But like Norm said it best. He goes, if they're clapping instead of laughing, you're not doing your job.
Exactly.
And I agree with that. And
That's
and
a good
that was actually a lesson
mantra.
I had to learn too, especially in improv, because in improv I wanted to give depth to scenes and shit like that. It's like, let's make this mean something, blah blah blah. And you can do that without getting preachy about like
But that's not stand up.
that's not stand up either.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it suffers from the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
At times. I mean, improv's, almost dead in this country anyways because of the COVID stuff, because theaters need to teach classes to survive, and it's hard to do a class on Zoom. Stand-up's starting to come back because they could do outdoor shows and shit like that here, but
And then you've also just got the whole culture of, like so many things you can't go there, and I mean you can.
We
but
had that in
improv.
We had a big Me Too type of thing.
Yeah.
Which was because that's how actors who can't properly deal with people meet women, and there's a lot of grooming going on in improv, which is just creepy. I was never my thing because I was never that cool. I was always the crank you got after you went through like every level. I was like your graduate level professor who was going to tell you sucked for a while until you warmed up to me or something like that. But
well, before we get too seriously into Me Too, which is a subject I don't want to talk about.
No, I'm not going to talk about that.
So let's wrap it up because we've actually gone.
Before we move on to something else, let's wrap it up.
Because we've gone good. We honestly
we have gone too long.
Which is fine. And honestly, and for those that didn't see it, well, which is all of you.
And we did talk about my personal life, which is what we missed when we originally went on air.
Yeah, and mine too. So we'll do that another time. Well, I'll have you on again at some point. And I'll give you plenty of notice next time.
Hey, will I be replacing somebody that time? Because that would be the best bit.
Although it's real handy.
I'm going to be the Matt Damon of your show. I'm going to be the guy who comes. Yes.
When we're already staying together. So, but I will say what you guys got to look forward to, all things going well. And I should know better than to promote things that I haven't actually happened yet. But I've got Promise Thomas coming up on Friday's show. And then on Monday, I've got Steve Geimer from Fight Game Group. Next Wednesday, I've got Christy Petrillo, and we're going to be doing a show about Last American Virgin, as I mentioned. I think in the unrecorded portion, I talked about that.
So. No, you talked about on the Fight Game.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah, on the radio show.
That's gonna be
radio, and then podcast, whatever.
A week from Friday, so I've actually got the next 2 weeks booked. Filthy Tom Lawler on a week from Friday, and then a week from that, I've got Darlene Schacht, who is Time Warp wife. Very, very famous in social media Christian circles, but she's also my aunt. and she's a
Nice.
best-selling author. She's got several books that have made the Amazon bestseller list. So she's going to come on with me, and yeah, we got some other things in the works too. So I want to thank Jeff for coming on. Again, thanks for checking it out. Like and subscribe if you don't mind, and leave comments. Appreciate all the feedback we got for the first show, and I appreciate your time, Jeff. Thanks for filling in on short notice.
Anytime you want to do a Rogan 3-hour one, you can just start, and I'll just talk for 3 hours.
Cool. And as you've been seeing on the bottom of the screen, Jeff's on Shake Them Ropes at Voices of Wrestling, as well as Crap Game 13 on Twitter. And you can check out our YouTube channel, Fight Game Media, as well as the Patreon, patreon.com/Fight Game Media. So for Uncle Crappy, I'm Grandpa Dez. Till next time. Later.
Wahoo wah.